My journey's been one of, God has a very funny way of preparing us for things. And my journey started off in preparation for the work that I do today. And so I have a long story, which is written in my book, about my journey and how I have arrived at this place where I think my biggest work, my best work has been in helping women reopen their voice, to reclaim their voice. And that's what I still love doing. And children are my heart. I feel for the children who don't have a choice, because we didn't have choices. So we know that trauma related to violence, to abuse, to neglect is a very complex issue, right? And I later on in my conversation, I wanted to say this, but I think I want to say it now, is that it's so complex that I'm still having the same conversation, which means that things haven't really progressed a whole lot. I lived as a victim for almost 30 years of my life. I've worked as a professional in this field, working with children and families who've gone through these abuses and traumas. And that's 60 years, and I'm still having these conversations. So it's a highly complex issue that affects, the child internally. And, when you're a child, you can't process all that stuff. So you live in chaos. And the chaos is where you have so much stuff coming in, and it shifts so quickly, and it changes around who you are, that you really don't understand what goes on inside. And many times the flavor of all of that becomes very bitter, because everybody else turns on that child as well, because now that child has a problem, or that needs to go see the behavior specialist, or they need to get medication, or they need to go into foster care because of the so it's always the child's. We compile things on these children, and I can even, as a child coming through some of that, can remember, Celina was very smart. What happened? She's not doing any work. She's not coming to school. She needs to go to detention. She's not talking in class. But nobody took the time to understand what was going on with Celina. It happened for me in two ways. One was love. The love I had for my father and my mother. But my mother was very sickly. But for my father and his mother, Vanilla, who the V in my business is Vanilla, my grandmother's name. So love. All of the victimized walk I did through my life, through that journey in my darkness, I always had them in my heart, and I always felt the guilt that I have to do better, because they would want better. They wouldn't want this. And I had love, and I always had a relationship with God. I was like on a subway with God. God was like, you're going to come up and you're going to stay down. What you going to do, Celina? Because I would always have this bobbing relationship with God. God, I'm really trying not to go back down again. So it's hard. It's hard. And it's hard when you start at a young age, and then it grows, and you get all those other kinds of compilations that are layering and layering and layering. So now you feel like you're self-sabotaging. You're damaged goods. You're not worth anything anymore. My story goes beyond miracles for where I am today, believe me or not, because we just don't know who we are. I just want people there's so much goodness in people. There's so much. God has given us so much to work with. I'm a living example of that, and so I want people to realize their gifts, and we can create great economies, great societies, great communities. We could do so many more things if we didn't lose so many great people to this terrible chaos.